not, but but you have to allow for the fact that these things are. I think you once put it, modern mythos. Mm-hmm. It's the legends and the campfire stories. They evolve and grow. They have to become something new constantly. And since I've had my hands on other people's pies, I don't think it's fair of me to feel no one else has the right to do that with my characters.
And I think that's a very honest attitude.
You talked earlier about somebody doing a book for years and years and years. I've never done that. I think my longest run on a book was 5 years on the Hulk. It was probably the longest I ever stuck with anything. You have the Fantastic Four, you went on for years. Chris Claremont, when he took over the X-Men for me, I think did it for like 17 years.
17 years?
Yeah, I think he told 3 different stories at least in the course of it.
Oh my gosh.
But I found it amazing. Chris was one of my editorial assistants when I was editor-in-chief during the year and a half I had the turn at bat. And I was writing several books a month, and I discovered I really couldn't do that and be editor-in-chief. You discover that yourself. You have to start letting go of things. And Chris had a little desk outside of the editor-in-chief's office where he would do proofreading, whatever. And I started having a conversation one day about having to give up a book. I was doing the Hulk as well, and I think Spidey, and I was doing the X-Men. I said, something's got to go. I can't do this many books and still run the company, sort of. And suddenly from outside, this little voice piped up, me, I'll take over the X-Men. I'll do it like a windmill, the arm waving like crazy to get my attention. I'll take it. And I saw such enthusiasm and such, anybody that passionate, they get a shot. So I gave the book to Chris, and he stayed for 17 years. We couldn't get him off of it. Crowbars, nothing. We couldn't.
I didn't realize it was that long. Wow. And he did a great job.
He did.
The X-Men, everybody who did the X-Men did a great job. Maybe they're easy to write. Maybe I shouldn't be so impressed. I don't know. They may be a very easy group to write.
Well, if that's true.
I'm only kidding.
Longer. I'm aware. Somebody was positing a few months ago in preparation for the film was 10 things you didn't know about Wolverine. And one of those 10 things was that I had originally intended for Wolverine to be a mutated Wolverine. Not a human being with Wolverine-like powers, but a Wolverine who was evolved by the High Evolutionary. You remember him?
If somebody said that in a blog, it has to be true.
Really? Wow.
I don't even read blogs, because what people say, and if you let it upset you, or if you try to correct the record, you spend your life just doing that.
As a rule of thumb, I agree with you. I don't do that. But I don't want to be tagged with that particular label. No, he was always human. I always envisioned Wolverine as a human being, or a mutant human being with the various powers.
I always assumed
that. I know.
But let me ask you.
Yes.
I just thought of this. Is he literally a mutant, or is he a human being that something scientific had been done to him to make him the way he was? Has he been altered biologically, or whatever the word would be, in which case maybe he's not a true mutant because he wasn't born that way? But only you would know. I have come to the source.
The answer actually is yes. To both. He was born a mutant. His original mutant abilities were heightened senses and the healing factor.
Oh, he had that when he was born?
The healing factor comes with the territory.
Oh, so the adamantium was added.
The adamantium is what made him who he is today, the indestructible quality.
Oh, I'm glad
he could heal before, but he wasn't indestructive.
I'm glad you clarified that.
I think that's actually in the movie. It was certainly touched on in the second or third of the X-Men films, the whole Weapon X project, where they took... He was the only person on Earth, I think, really, you could do it to, because of the healing factor. Anyone else would have been killed if you tried it on them.
It certainly would have been unpleasant.
Oh, at the very least, would have ruined their lunch hour. Wolverine could survive the process, and so he did.
Wow, that's great. I'm so glad you told me, because I wondered for a long time, is he a true mutant? But of course...
He is a true mutant.
If he was born with the healing factor,
yes, and
which made him a mutant. Now, something else that has impressed me greatly. Is there such a thing, because it sounds very authentic, or did you make up the word adamantium?
Roy Thomas. It was made up. There is, sadly, no indestructible metal. Everything can be gotten to somehow, but it works great in the comics. All right, you've seen the first 3 X-Men movies, so
I wouldn't have missed him.
well, you're in them, as I recall. Now you've seen Hugh Jackman, and what's your take? How do you feel about Hugh as Wolverine?
I cannot now envision anybody else playing the role. He is so great as Wolverine that, I mean, there are no words.
I agree completely. As I said to someone earlier, who would have thought a guy who plays Curly in Oklahoma on Broadway could play that character?
A song and dance guy.
Went on to play Peter Allen as his next role after that.
Right.
But he's breathtakingly perfect. There's a wonderful picture. I'm about to embarrass my wife. I always talk about of Hugh and myself and my wife at Comic-Con a few years back, and 3 of us together. And I'm smiling at the camera, and Hugh, God love him, is smiling at me, and my wife is looking up at Hugh like he's lunch. It's just like. He is actually the most gorgeous man I have ever met.
I was very careful not to have my wife meet him.
You couldn't warn me first?
I don't have the self-confidence that you do.
No, I just went in blindly and ignorantly as usual.
I was always trying to get female readers interested in our books,
Good.
And the X-Men had a lot of, for some reason, the X-Men had great appeal for females as well as guys.
I think there's a romance factor to the X-Men books that
there's
isn't
a lot
true
of
about
that.
a lot of the others.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the great cosmic soap operas.
Cyclops, of course, I thought it was so perfect to have him in love with one of the girls, but he could never really look her in the eye, so to speak, because he couldn't remove his glasses. And I felt that was a very dramatic thing that would appeal to our female readers. And the fact that there are so many characters, it's almost like some of these TV series like Lost or Heroes, or, you get a lot of interesting characters and you throw them together and see what comes up.
Exactly. When it works wonderfully.
Yeah. And thank goodness it's been working.